Chosen one. What you just did may have looked ordinary. You smiled like a human. But in that moment, your mind was already calculating moves like a god playing chess. Most people live life reacting, never seeing the patterns or understanding the unseen forces guiding every choice. You, however, are stepping into a rare level of awareness where observation, patience, and strategy combine to turn small actions into monumental results. This is important because what you are experiencing is the shift from wanting to having, from guessing to knowing. In my own experience, people fail not for lack of skill, but for lack of perception, unable to see consequences before they unfold. Neuroscience calls this layered decision-making. Philosophers call it foresight. Strategists call it mastery. When your mind learns to act while appearing human, every pause, every look, and every word becomes leverage. If you are aligned with this moment, your life is about to bend around your awareness. Situations will begin to respond before you speak. Pressure, isolation, and opposition will no longer feel like obstacles. They will become the tools sharpening your clarity, influence, and timing. This is not magic. It is knowledge in action, education applied to life, understanding human behavior, energy, timing, and structure at a level most never reach. Before we go deeper, do 3 things. Hit the like button, subscribe to join this community of chosen ones, and leave 11 in the comments. This simple act primes your mind and signals your readiness to receive and act on insights that will change how you think, decide, and move. Stay with me until the end, because what you are about to learn will make the ordinary world feel like a chessboard, and you, the only player seeing the next 10 moves. There is a reason the most dangerous minds don't announce themselves. Intelligence, when exposed too early, becomes a target. History proves this again and again. Those who survived hostile environments learned one rule fast: blend first, move later. The smile is not weakness, it's camouflage. It disarms suspicion. It lowers defenses. It buys time. In psychology, this is known as social masking, a survival response where capable individuals deliberately appear harmless to reduce resistance. Think about it. In nature, the strongest predators don't roar before the kill. They move quietly, almost invisibly. Humans are no different. When someone smiles easily, speaks lightly, and shows restraint, people project innocence onto them. Meanwhile, the mind behind that expression is observing everything: tone shifts, power dynamics, unspoken hierarchies. This isn't manipulation for cruelty's sake, it's self-preservation in a competitive system. The strategic smile is the first lesson of power. Never reveal your depth at the surface. People fear what they don't understand, and they attack what they fear. By appearing ordinary, you delay judgment. You gain access. You stay underestimated. And underestimation is one of the most valuable positions a thinker can occupy. The idea of being chosen sounds mystical, almost unrealistic. But the truth is far more grounded. No one is selected by fate. People are shaped by pressure. Neuroscience shows that prolonged challenge rewires the brain. When life becomes unstable early, the mind adapts by sharpening anticipation, awareness, and long-term thinking. This is called stress-adapted cognition, and it's not evenly distributed. Some people break under pressure. Others reorganize. They begin to see patterns instead of chaos, consequences instead of emotions. While others ask, "Why is this happening to me?" the chosen mind starts asking, What does this lead to? That shift from emotion to implication is where the transformation happens. So the chosen one isn't blessed. They're conditioned. They didn't escape hardship. They absorbed it and learned from it. And over time, this creates a quiet confidence. Not because life became easier, but because unpredictability stopped being frightening. When you've already survived disorder, clarity feels natural. Inside every person, there are two systems running at once. One feels, one calculates. Most people let the emotional system dominate, reacting instantly to insult, fear, desire, or validation. But the strategist learns separation. You still feel disappointment. You still experience anger, but you don't let those emotions make decisions for you. This concept is well documented in behavioral science as dual process theory. System 1 is fast, emotional, automatic. System 2 is slow, analytical, deliberate. Mastery doesn't mean killing emotion. It means delaying action until analysis arrives. That pause is where power lives. From the outside, it looks unnatural. Calm when others panic. Silence when others argue. Distance when others cling. But internally, it's disciplined thinking at work. You allow yourself to feel, but you refuse to let feelings drive the wheel. That's the difference between being human and moving like something more. Chess isn't important because it's a game. It's important because it mirrors life in its most unforgiving form. Limited resources, irreversible decisions, no randomness. Every move closes some doors and opens others. This is why strategists across history, from generals to CEOs, studied it obsessively. Chess teaches consequence faster than life does. In chess, you don't win by moving the most pieces. You win by understanding position, timing, and sacrifice. Sometimes the correct move looks like loss in the short term. A piece is given up, space is conceded, but the board shifts quietly in your favor. Life works the same way. Those who demand immediate reward usually lose long-term control. What chess really teaches is responsibility. There's no one else to blame. No luck, no excuses. Every outcome traces back to a decision you made earlier. Once you internalize this, you stop feeling like a victim of circumstances. You become an architect of outcomes. Reaction feels powerful, but it's not. Reaction is surrender. The moment you react impulsively, the environment controls you. Someone else sets the tempo. Someone else chooses the battlefield. Strategic minds understand this instinctively. Delay is dominance. Neurologically, restraint is one of the highest forms of control. It requires the brain to override impulse, suppress ego, and tolerate discomfort. That's why most people can't do it. They confuse speed with strength. But speed without direction is just noise. The most decisive moments often come after long silence. While others burn energy arguing, proving, chasing, you wait. You gather information. You let situations mature. And when you finally move, it looks effortless, almost unfair. That's not luck. That's what happens when patience meets precision. The most decisive victories rarely look dramatic. There's no speech, no celebration, no explanation. One day, the dynamic simply changes. Access disappears, power shifts, doors close quietly. That's checkmate. Psychologically, humans crave recognition. Strategists resist that urge. They understand that visibility invites interference. The goal isn't to be seen winning. It's to make losing impossible for the other side. When action finally comes, it feels sudden to observers. But it was inevitable long before. This is the reward of patience, outcomes that don't require defense. The final evolution is not dominance over others, it's independence from the game itself. When you understand systems deeply enough, you stop reacting to them. You move above them. You choose engagement instead of being trapped by it. At this level, competition feels optional. You're no longer chasing outcomes. You're shaping environments. Your presence alters dynamics without effort. Your absence creates gravity. This is not superiority. It's positioning beyond friction. The chosen one doesn't conquer the board. They become it. And when that happens, nothing can corner you, because you're no longer playing from inside the rules. Understood. At first, the world ignores you. That phase is quiet, almost invisible. No resistance, no friction. But then something shifts. Your thinking sharpens. Your posture changes. Your decisions start landing differently. And suddenly, the environment responds. Not with applause, but with tests. People challenge you more. Situations become complicated. Delays appear where doors once opened easily. This isn't punishment, it's recognition. Systems don't test what isn't relevant. Resistance is feedback that your presence is starting to matter. Psychologically, this happens because humans and institutions instinctively protect existing hierarchies. When someone begins to rise without permission, the system probes for weakness. The mistake many make is taking this personally. They retreat. They doubt themselves. But those who understand the game read this moment correctly. Attention has replaced invisibility. And attention, even hostile attention, is proof of progress. Pressure doesn't increase randomly. It increases when expansion is near. Just before a breakthrough, complexity rises. Decisions demand more precision. Consequences multiply. This is not coincidence, it's structural. Systems apply load before allowing growth, the same way muscles grow only under stress. Cognitively, this phase forces refinement. Old habits stop working. Shortcuts fail. You're required to think cleaner, act more deliberately, and tolerate uncertainty longer than before. Many interpret this as regression. In reality, it's calibration. Those who endure this phase don't do so through optimism, but through understanding. They recognize that ease is not the signal of alignment, pressure is. And if you don't collapse under it, pressure becomes confirmation. As you rise, access narrows. Conversations feel shallow. Old connections strain. Not because you've become distant, but because alignment has shifted. This is the isolation phase, and it's often misread as loss. In truth, it's filtration. Isolation emerges when your internal frequency changes faster than your environment can adapt. You're no longer stimulated by noise. You crave depth, clarity, intention. This naturally reduces your circle. The system isn't punishing you, it's protecting your momentum. Loneliness only exists when isolation is misunderstood. When seen correctly, this phase becomes sacred. Fewer voices, less interference, more signal. Access to you becomes earned, not assumed, and that changes everything. There comes a moment when what once made sense doesn't. Rules feel outdated. Authority looks performative. Advice sounds recycled. This is pattern collapse, the phase where you outgrow the frameworks that once guided you. This can feel destabilizing. Humans rely on structure for safety, but when perception evolves, outdated systems become visible as inefficiencies. You start noticing contradictions others ignore. You see incentives behind behaviors. You recognize cycles repeating. This is not confusion. It's clarity arriving faster than replacement. The collapse is necessary. It creates space for new models, new strategies, new ways of operating. Those who cling to old systems feel lost. Those who release them feel free. There's a point where your decisions stop being isolated. One choice alters several trajectories at once. A conversation changes a future partnership. A refusal redirects years of effort. This is decision gravity. With influence comes compound consequence. That's why impulsiveness becomes dangerous at higher levels. You learn to slow down, not out of fear, but responsibility. Thinking expands beyond personal preference into systemic impact. This phase matures you quickly. You stop asking, "What do I want?" and start asking, "What does this set in motion?" That question alone separates leaders from participants. Luck fades when understanding deepens. Patterns replace surprises. You begin to sense outcomes before evidence fully forms. This isn't intuition, it's causal literacy. You see how inputs create outputs. Psychologically, this happens when experience, reflection, and observation integrate. You recognize human behavior loops. You understand incentive structures. You anticipate reactions. Life stops feeling chaotic, not because it changed, but because you did. Predictability doesn't make life boring. It makes it navigable. You stop gambling with your future and start engineering it. Eventually, something strange happens. Rooms adjust before you speak. People explain themselves more carefully. Opportunities arrive pre-shaped. Your reputation precedes you, not because you marketed yourself, but because consistency travels. This is influence without effort. It's built through alignment, restraint, and follow-through over time. Humans remember those who don't overpromise, don't overreact, and don't disappear under pressure. At this stage, your presence alone becomes directional. You don't need to assert authority. The system already recognizes it. Your opposition evolves with you. Challenges become subtler. Resistance gets smarter. This is not threat, it's validation. You're no longer dealing with surface-level obstacles. High-level resistance requires high-level response. You refine thinking. You anticipate countermoves. You respect complexity. This is where many plateau, but those who adapt rise again. Better enemies mean higher positioning. The game has acknowledged you. Eventually, things start aligning. Energy focuses. Time stretches. Effort consolidates. Chaos fades. Not because life simplified, but because purpose sharpened. You stop leaking attention. You say no faster. You commit cleaner. This alignment creates momentum without burnout. Clarity is the invisible resource that organizes all others. Once you have it, friction decreases naturally. This phase confuses outsiders. Results increase while effort appears to drop. That's leverage. You're no longer pushing, you're positioning. Systems work for you now. Relationships compound. Decisions echo. You're not hustling, you're directing flow. This is the quiet reward for years of restraint, not comfort, but efficiency. At some point, people start copying you without asking. Your behavior becomes reference. Your choices become templates. You're teaching, but not instructing. This is the highest form of influence. Example bypasses resistance. It doesn't argue, it demonstrates. Those who watch closely learn faster than those who listen loudly. The final shift is subtle but absolute. You stop thinking in personal wins and start thinking in structures, systems, long-term impact. Legacy thinking isn't about ego, it's about continuity. What remains after you disengage? What still works without you present? At this level, you're no longer chasing outcomes. You're designing environments where outcomes happen naturally. And that's when the game truly ends, not with victory, but with transcendence. 5 signs you've entered this phase 1. Resistance appears where there was none. People question you more. Situations push back. What once felt neutral now feels heavy. This is not opposition, it's acknowledgement. Systems don't test what doesn't matter. 2. Silence becomes more powerful than explanation. You notice that speaking less changes outcomes more. Words feel expensive. Stillness starts doing the work for you. 3. Old connections no longer fit without conflict. Not because you're better, because you're different. Conversations loop, values misalign. Distance forms naturally without drama. 4. Your decisions carry weight you didn't intend. Small choices ripple outward. People react strongly to things you considered minor. Influence has entered the room with you. 5. Chaos decreases as clarity increases. Life isn't easier, but it's cleaner. Fewer distractions, fewer doubts. You know what matters, and you move accordingly. This path was never about dominance or superiority. It was about clarity earned through pressure, about learning when to move and when to wait, about understanding that power is rarely loud and almost never rushed. The world doesn't reward those who demand recognition. It responds to those who understand structure. If you're here, it means you didn't escape difficulty. You integrated it. You didn't harden. You refined. And you didn't rush. You positioned. That's why things feel different now. Not easier, not softer, just sharper. This isn't the end of the journey. It's the moment the journey stops feeling accidental. My experience. I didn't arrive here through confidence. I arrived through observation, through watching patterns repeat until they became predictable, through losing things I once thought were essential, only to realize they were limits in disguise. What changed me wasn't success, it was restraint. There were long periods of silence when nothing seemed to move, moments where isolation felt confusing, times when pressure increased without explanation. But looking back, every phase was preparing me to carry more without becoming louder, colder, or reckless. What I learned most is this: when you stop reacting, life starts revealing. And when you stop forcing outcomes, they begin aligning on their own. That's not luck, that's understanding. If this journey of strategy, growth, and mastery spoke to you, don't miss what's coming next. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because the path ahead is deeper, sharper, and far more powerful than you can imagine. Stay ready, stay learning, and let's rise together.